Hello, fighters. Welcome back to another episode of the TNF podcast with your boys KINC. I'm Shroud the Dragon Fox.
And I'm Pharaoh the editor.
Yes, and as you may have guessed, Wolf is not here with us tonight. He and Pharaoh have switched places because he retired after a long shift of work. So we have quite a varied selection of news for you guys this week. First off, we have some MK1 news. First of all, we have Ed Boon, who says Mortal Kombat may wind up becoming a forever franchise in a similar vein to Street Fighter to Star Wars and Marvel and other long-running franchises such as that. Pharaoh, what do you think about this? Do you think it's really going to be a household name at some point?
If I'm going to be completely honest, that is a stupid idea. I'm going to throw it straight out of the gate. That is a very bad idea. Star Wars. I'm just going to think of it with Star Wars and its recent controversies with its other shows. Do you really want it to follow down the same path as this?
I mean, it's not so much that it's going to follow the same path as those specific franchises, just more that it's probably going to be a household name at some point.
Yeah, but there will come a point where the game just becomes a bit too tired to keep up with.
That is true, and given how questionable Warner Brothers' decisions with their games have been in the recent in the last couple of years, it is pretty debatable on whether we actually would want MK to be its own big franchise like that. But who knows? We could be proven wrong. Maybe it's one of those things where it could follow the same trend as the Terminator movies or something like that. So, it's kind of I think it's a matter of MK just getting enough mainstream games out there and also some mainstream media to be able to stand on its own 2 feet, in my opinion.
A long way before that's going to happen. At least how it is right now.
True, but keep in mind, MK1 is the biggest thing, or one of the 3 biggest things hitting the FGC right now. And I mean, it did have that decent movie not too long ago, just 5 years ago, I think it was, where sure they had to introduce a whole new character into it, but despite it not following the traditional format of the MK franchise, it still, in my opinion, was decent for a video game adaptation. So, I think the series definitely has some potential. Whether it actually reaches that potential is yet to be seen. Anyway, moving on. Another bit of MK1 news. So we have new MK95 skins for Smoke available for free to all players. So the moment you guys log in to get your log into MK1 next, you will be treated to a free Smoke skin from the 95 game set. So look forward to that. Next, the Idol Mobile Collector Street Fighter Duel is now crossing over with Street Fighter 6. We have Luke confirmed as the first character for collaboration. Now, obviously, for those of you who do not know, this mobile game is basically an auto fighter of sorts. I played a little bit. I know Wolf has played it way more than me. Basically, it's one of those games where you collect a whole bunch of characters. It's got gacha mechanics to it, but it's also got combined characters to level them up, and they'll do crossovers every so often. I know that when I was playing it, they had a Devil May Cry crossover, and I got Dante. But it's basically you have 3 teammates, you put them into a level. They will fight automatically for you, and then you just gotta press the buttons for the special moves. So pretty simple gameplay, but those fun collector games, they can still they still draw a bunch of people in. So and plus it can introduce mobile game players to the Street Fighter franchise, which more exposure is always good for these games. So so Street Fighter 6 is officially getting a crossover with that. Luke is a character, and with that we could probably see some other newer characters come in, Marissa, or the new version of M. Bison, or who knows, maybe since we're getting the new Fatal Fury characters Terry and Mai in there, maybe we might see them at some point. It's the possibilities are kind of endless at this point. After that, we have a new official gameplay trailer for Terry Bogard for SF6. Speaking of which, It's showcasing the iconic KOF Fatal Fury attacks and a unique playstyle challenge ahead for the fall release. Now, Pharaoh, I'm not sure if you saw this yourself, but I think it looks pretty good in terms of Terry's movement. Like, he definitely flows really well into, like, all his moves. Like, he definitely has a lot of strings that he can pull off. And, of course, like, you have his usual, like his three major fighting game moves, whose names escape me at the moment, but you have, like, I think it's called the Rapid Punch, where he, like, jets forward and throws a fiery punch. You have the one fireball he does, where it's basically like a ground pound and you have flames coming up from the ground. And then you have the uppercut. I gotta admit, SF6 graphics make them look pretty darn cool. And of course, there is also his super. Again, like his level 3's name escapes me, but it's basically an upside down lariat. And it's honestly, I could not tell what was happening most of the time because it was just a tornado of color. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So yeah, and that obviously his playstyle is like I said, it does look a bit more fluid than other people's. Like usually, from what I've seen with the other playstyles of the other characters in the Street Fighter franchise, they're like for the most part they are kind of start and stop kind of combo strings, or if they keep going in a decent flow, they're usually changing directions like every other move. But Terry, he seems to have a very lateral flow to his movement. So I'm interested to see how players pick him up and what people think of him. Plus, with Terry, we got an amazing new stage. I'm guessing it's some sort of tea house / restaurant in a Chinese, Japanese sort of style. I'm not sure what exactly it's supposed to represent, but it does look freaking cool, and I cannot wait to play on it. Anyway, moving on, back to Fatal Fury for seconds. Save the Wolves had another character trailer recently, and that was the return of Mai Shiranui, one of my favorite characters from the King of Fighters Fatal Fury franchises. And I gotta say, from her trailer, she looks darn good in a biker jacket. I'm just gonna say that. Plus, with her trailer, we actually got a actual release date for Save the Wolves, which is going to be September 24th of 2025. So fall of next year is when we'll see this game come out, and honestly, I cannot wait for this. This looks like an amazing game. I can't wait to see what other characters are announced for this game, and it's gonna be like one of those big things where everyone's gonna be wanting to pre-order and play as soon as it launches, and I am definitely gonna be one of those. I know Wolf is gonna be one of those. I'm not sure about you, Pharaoh, but it's going to be a whole cluster of us that are coming to throw down in that arena. And then, Bandai Namco. There's been basically a showcase action-packed gameplay trailer for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero at Gamescom in 2024. And now we have a trailer that basically gives a countdown of 50 days as of the time that it came out for the release of this game. So the hype is getting real, and we're building up to where we're like less than 2 months away from release. So like we've only got like about 29 or so character slots to go. So it's definitely gonna be ramping up in terms of the frequency of trailers. So for those of you, for my fellow DBZ Sparking Zero fans out there who are looking forward to this, we are going to eat well in September. Anyway, and then moving on after that, we have the Evo social channels. They unveiled a special interview with Maximilian Dude, of all people. I guess it's only a matter of time before he got an interview with them, given how prevalent he is in the fighting game community. But basically, it detailed the 5 fighting games that influenced his life and career. Moving on, Capcom has officially confirmed their lineup for the Tokyo Game Show in late September. And these are going to include demos for Street Fighter 6 with, I believe that will include either Terry or Mai as playable characters in the demo. And we will be getting a demo playable at the event for the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, which I am so jealous people are going to get into do that early, especially considering that the full game isn't supposed to come out until as far as what I know from looking at Amazon, it's going to be at the end of the year. So yeah, so little jelly at that the people going to that event in Japan are going to be able to witness the glory of the old Capcom games revitalized a good 3 months early. So for those of you who are going to that event, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a good time at that event. I cannot wait until these games come out. I've been, as I've been telling Wolf for the past, ever since that Nintendo Direct, I've been saying I need this collection, and that has not changed. I still really need these collections. That actually brings me to a good question, Pharaoh. For you, like these are older arcade cabinet style games. Like how, do you think this would be something that you would get into?
I don't really know, since I played very little of Marvel vs. Capcom anyway. So I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Okay,
I don't have a definitive answer right now.
Gotcha. It'll just be another series that me and Wolf will have to initiate you into. Okay, I guess. So to all those going to the event, good luck. Safe travels, and we look forward to hearing what you post on the socials. And for our final news talk today, while we have not gotten the surveys out yet for us to give our feedback, some of the major stats for the 2XKO Alpha Lab have come back. We can now confirm that as of right now, the top 2 played characters of the 6 are Ari, thankfully, and annoyingly Echo. Echo is, I can definitely see why people are playing as him more often. So those are the 2 most played characters. They had some stats for what movies got used the most, and surprise, surprise, it was the level 1, level 2 supers. We also had what was it? We had a bunch of stuff, including what was the major. We had the most used fuse, which again, the tutorial was not really clear on how to actually use those. Me and Wolf were quite perplexed when we tried playing this, and they definitely need to make that a little more clear. But for those of you who know how to use the fuse and who care, the most used fuse was the 2x assist, which, given the name, I'm guessing it allows you to either use twice the number of assists in the same amount of time, or it allows you to use 2 assists at the same time. I don't know. Again, I just use the default fuse with my stuff, and I think Wolf experimented a little bit with his, but not that much. And the supers were not the most popular moves. It was a counter of how many supers had been cast. And that was 21 million supers. That is quite impressive for a single week of playtesting. There was also the most popular stage, which was, surprisingly no one, the Bridge of Progress. Which, I gotta admit, this is my favorite stage by far, just because, given how I am somewhat visually impaired, just the dark background of that contrasted with the bright colors of the characters was a lot easier for me to see. So I am definitely hoping that they keep this stage in, because I know I'll be playing on this stage quite a bit when the game fully comes out. They also gave us, surprisingly, a total number of how many hits were landed and how many were blocked. And yeah, this is more telling about the community's play style in general. The amount of attacks actually landed was 539 million, while the number of hits that were blocked was only 163 million. So yeah, we gotta learn how to block more, people. We definitely need to learn how to block more, because for those of you who got your butts whooped in the alpha test, that stat alone should tell you what's going wrong. You're not blocking enough. That's probably the issue there. And then the last and probably the most hilarious metric they had on this Instagram post was the number of poros thrown, which, for those of you who are not familiar, and I especially was not familiar with this because I didn't know what they were called until I saw this metric. If you guys remember Brahms' intro, where he had those little floofy little dog things, where he also uses them on his little 3 super, yes, those are the Poros, apparently. And in total, in the entirety of the 1 week for the playtesting, a good 31 million of those were thrown. I'm not sure why that matters, whether it's an animal cruelty thing or whether it's just a fun little thing or what have you. But yeah, 31 million of the Poros were thrown during the playtest. Again, not sure if that makes a difference to anybody, but there you go. And yeah, so wrapping up that. So again, like we don't have the survey has not been emailed out yet, as far as we know. My guess is that by the time this episode drops, we'll probably have it in our hands. Like I'm guessing that they're just waiting to get the data all compiled, and then they're gonna send out for feedback. But given what me and Wolf were talking about last episode, it is a pretty fluid game. Like there are flaws. I'm looking at you, Echo and Darian, but for everything that there was wrong with it, there was just as much, if not more, stuff good with it. And I am definitely looking forward to see where this game goes, and you can bet your ass I'll be getting into the next playtest if there is one before the game fully comes out. Which again, we don't have an exact release date yet. Our best guess is sometime in 2025. Maybe it'll compete for the same time slot as Save the Wolves. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But yes, so that is everything we have on the news for this week. And now we move on to our indie spotlight. And Pharaoh, I think this is one that you will be somewhat interested in, because this is a game that I found on Steam that emulates a lot of Famicom NES style graphics, and there is definitely some joystick shenanigans with some of the moves, but I think for the most part it is playing very solidly in that kind of era of retro gaming.
Is that so?
Yes. This game...
Well, lay it on me.
Yes, so this game is called Super Bout Champions Tour. Now, granted, this is an early access game still, and the developer may or may not have abandoned, but who knows? Like, we've seen games come back from the dead, like, years after they were presumably dropped, so... But for what it is, for what we do have right now, I'd say it's a pretty complete game as it is right now. It's got a roster of about 8 characters, plus I assume some unlockable ones, because there are some that I have faced in the arcade ladders that I have not been able to play as yet, but I'm assuming that I need to unlock them through some unknown criteria, which is kind of a quid pro quo of the more early style retro fighting games. There is definitely a interesting cast of characters. Like, there's no deep lore. It's really just you pick a character, you go through the arcade ladder, or you face someone on 2-player, and you just have fun throwing hands. And we have, obviously I chose the ninja, really good rushdown character in my opinion. We also have stuff like a Monkey King-esque character. We have a cowboy. We have your usual Shoto karate guy. We have an alien. It kind of has some weird stuff going on there. And I could be wrong, but I think there was one guy who was actually a sumo wrestler. So a good variety of character archetypes and fighting styles, and I gotta admit, the special moves, decently easy to pull off. And there was even one for the ninja moveset which I did, which was basically it was basically a Dragon Punch input, which I am historically terrible at. And yet, I guess the controls were just not so delicate that I could actually still pull it off relatively easily, and good too, because that was the ninja's teleport move. So, pretty simple, pretty bare bones, but for what it is, it's kind of one of those jump in, learn to play easily, but at high level play, it's difficult to master kind of games. So. I think, Farrah, if you're definitely looking for a fighting game that kind of speaks to your retro gamer soul, then I would definitely have to recommend this one to you.
Very nice.
So yeah, and to all you listening out there, yes, again, game is early access, may have been abandoned, but for what we do have right now, pretty darn good game. It is solid. I could say it's probably good as it is. Like, it could be a finished game in its current state. But who knows? Maybe the dev might pick it back up, and we might get more stuff to go with it. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But for right now, really good game. I definitely recommend you go play it. It's pretty cheap on Steam, and I hope you guys have fun with that. And now we get on to our discussion topic, which originally I had planned to talk through this with Wolf. But you know what? Given that Pharaoh, given that you are generally a newcomer to the fighting game franchise as a whole, I think this might be more interesting to talk to you about, since you probably have no clue what I'm talking about, and I can get your fresh opinion on this. So, the topic for this week that I chose was recoverable health, otherwise known as gray health. Now, Pharaoh, do you have any clue what that is?
Not really. Could you give me the quick rundown of that?
Okay, so basically, recoverable health is basically what it sounds like. Basically, like when you're in a match, when you're getting hit by an opponent, you might see your main health bar go down, but you might also see a kind of almost a shadow of the bar staying behind in a different color. Now, as soon as you get out of the attack string, that other color will basically slowly come down to catch up with your main bar. But if it's still there and you can start laying some hits early enough, you can actually recover some of that health. And like you see this a lot in like tag team fighters, like Dragon Ball fighters, or I assume Tekken Tag Team, though I've never played it before. It's also there. Trix KO also had it. Basically, if you have gray health on a character and you switch that character out, as the character 2 is coming in, character 1 basically can regain some of that health back. And in more recent games like Tekken 8, with their heat system, basically when you activate heat, it'll basically like just automatically just give you a bit of gray health to work with. So yeah, basically it's a way, like basically it's a reward for you to get to basically have a turnaround, and like if you're getting beat on, but you can still like turn the tables and start fighting back like pretty well. It rewards you with that with a little bit of health regen. So Pharaoh, with that explanation in mind, hopefully I did that explanation justice.
You did pretty good.
Yeah. So with that all in mind, what are your thoughts on this mechanic? I want to get an opinion from a true newcomer to the fighting game franchise or community.
All right. Now, if I'm going to be honest, it just kind of feels a bit cheap, if we'll be for lack of better terms.
Okay.
Well, I know you're getting a bit of health, but does it really feel all that rewarding? Like, if your character's little mechanic is the more damage you take, the more you dish out. That just seems like a better alternative. Sure, you're not recovering anything, but you'll be able to dish more out.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, this is not a character-specific mechanic. This is like a entire game mechanic. Like anyone on the roster can recover health this way.
Even then, you said that the amount of gray health is usually not very much, right? Well,
it depends on how badly you get beat in a combo. Sometimes you might get sometimes your opponent might get a couple hits in and you just have a little bit to work with, or sometimes they might keep going, get consecutive hits in for a long ass time, and you have a lot of gray health to work with. So it kind of just depends on the situation and how badly one gets hit.
Okay, so that may change it a little bit. I still think it's cheap, but I guess depending on the situation, it can be useful.
Yeah, and like this is kind of considered like a turnaround mechanics. Like it's a way for, say, if someone's seriously losing, they can still have a fighting chance at coming back and winning the round. Essentially, that's essentially what this is. And even if it's just a little bit of gray health that gets recovered, keep in mind, you and I have both watched enough fighting game tournaments at this point to see like how much a little bit of health can matter in a match. Like you can have like a sliver of health left, and because you get great health back, you can survive long enough to actually win the match.
Yeah, so it's not the most likely thing to happen, you know.
I mean, granted, like it's not typically taken advantage of a lot of the time, but when the chips are down, you really need it. It can be a useful little thing to keep you alive for just long enough for as long as you need to do some more damage.
So you mean it's more of a roll of the dice whether it's effective or not?
Well, no, it is like its effectiveness depends on how much you have to work with. Like I said, it depends on how much great health you have to work with. Like if your opponent hits you just a couple times, you'll have a little bit to work with. If they hit you like a full like 2 combos in a row, you'll have a lot to work with. And of course, like you can only take advantage of the gray health if you start hitting back fast enough. Like as soon as you let if you just leave it alone or you're blocking for a long time afterwards, that gray health will eventually disappear.
Oh. But I think we're forgetting to factor in the player's skill level here. So depending on how good they are, they may or may not be able to take advantage of it.
Yes, that is true. Like skill level definitely is it definitely can be a huge factor in terms of whether gray health is actually viable in terms of a strategy or not. But like it's like it definitely is a viable tool in the toolkit for like high level tournament play. But yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from, where the beginner player might not be able to make good use of it, unless of course they are like fighting against a player of a similar skill level. So I think it depends on not so much the skill of the player, but the skill difference between the two players in the ring.
Yes, I believe you are correct on that.
Yeah, and like that's not to say that a beginner can't use that against an expert. It's kind of like boxing. Like even if you have a novice boxer against a pro boxer, the novice will still get a lucky hit in every so often. So even if beginners getting beat down on pretty badly by an expert, if they can manage to get an opening and take advantage of that and just keep going and with their hits, they can use the gray health, the gray effectiveness, and have a better chance at surviving longer.
Though there really should be a more viable passive, at least.
Yeah, I admit they're like gray health, like it kind of differs from game to game. So you're not going to get a consistent use of gray health every time, but I can definitely see where you're coming from. It could definitely be improved a little bit in some cases, but in other places, I think it's okay. Like T8 has great gray health system. Like the heat system gives you some automatic gray health to work with, and there's you can also get gray health just during the match if you're wise to the fact that it's happening. So yeah, it's kind of one of those more complex topics that I think are going to need more discussion and to really get into the meat of it and to see is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it good in its current incarnation, or do we need to improve it on more? Or is there something more passive that might be better, might be more useful for us?
Heck, we can make that a discussion topic for another week.
We could. I think that could be our topic for next week. Is there a passive effect that you would, or a passive effect or mechanic that you would put in a fighting game? That's perfect, Pharaoh. We'll make that the topic for next week. Thank you for bringing that up. But as always, we end off with our dream rosters. Now, I've got mine. Pharaoh, in the half hour that you had before recording, did you come up with one for yourself?
I have, though I don't know if it's already been done. Oh.
Well, lay it on us, and we'll see.
Now, I have to ask, have we ever done anything involving 80s arcade games?
You know what?
A whole bunch of classics.
Weirdly enough, I don't think we have. That's quite surprising because that would be the first thing. You would think that would be the first era first era / franchise series that we would go to, but no, I don't think we've actually touched 80s arcade stuff at all.
All right. Well, I'm assuming you could probably take advantage of older arcade titles that a lot of the older fans may have played as kids, and you could throw that together in a game. I mean, like, you got older ones like, Dig Dug is another one I think that is probably memorable.
For sure.
Yeah. Pac-Man, I know he's in Smash Brothers, but
different. Don't worry. He's the third-party guest character in Smash Bros. It's not his game. He just showed up to the party. So yes, he could definitely be in like an '80s arcade game.
Heck, if you have to bring in some of the arcade games that Japan made between like 1982 and like 1989, 90 or something.
Okay. Any recommendations for who you take from that lineup?
Ooh, I'd have to go back and look at a whole bunch. Because I don't have any right off the top of my head.
I'm kind of curious. So, like, in terms of like who you could draw from, would you draw from, say, a game like Galaga or Centipede, where like it's not so much characters but vehicles that you have to control?
That would be a little bit harder, but I think it's possible if you may have to make some changes to it, but it's entirely possible.
Okay. And would you see this more on the 2D fighting game style or 3D?
I think either or could be done.
Okay.
I mean, you could make a version that's 2D for all the old school gamers, and then you have the 3D stuff if you ever want to try and bring it into the modern day.
Okay, so you're basically just making this into a franchise now. Like 2D will be the first game, 3D will be the sequel, basically.
Not really. It's more of different versions of the same thing, or maybe have them as two different selectable options in the title, where you can have it change between 2 and 3D.
Okay. All right.
You got to have your accessibility nowadays, right?
Of course. I totally get that. Okay. Well, that's an interesting pick, Farrah. Like, I cannot believe we didn't think of this sooner. And I guess it's no surprise that you did, because you are the retro gamer of the three of us. You definitely are more in that world than we are. So, good on you for jumping on that idea.
Hopefully, it was a good one.
I definitely think it has potential. Like assuming you can actually like compile enough characters to make a full roster.
I think maybe 30, 40, 50 games might be able to come up with a good enough roster. Maybe
then I think
30 characters.
Then I think you should be good then.
Got to make sure it's big enough. If it's not a big enough roster, who the hell's going to play it? Too big? You also have to consider the space you're able to use.
Yeah,
or if you want to go on the traditional arcade system, or if you want to go console, that also depends on that too.
That is true, and plus, like, small rosters aren't necessarily bad. Like, we've seen small rosters done to great effect. Like, you and I played Arcus Chroma a while back, and that had a pretty small roster of 10 or so, or 12, and it was a pretty good game. It had good variety for its limited roster. So, I think for a classic arcade experience, you could go as big or small as you want to with this. Anyway, to wrap us up, for my dream roster, I will admit I have been going down a rabbit hole of old '80s fantasy anime. And the recent discovery that I have been jumping on is the Slayers franchise, which, for those of you who don't know, it's a classic, like, kind of misadventure, kind of adventure of the week kind of anime with an overarching story, arcs happening. It's kind of like a predecessor to like things like One Piece or Naruto or something like that, but more contained stories. Kind of like if you were playing a game of D&D. I would equate it more to that, but yeah. So I'm just kind of wrapping up the first season of this, so I'm not quite sure as to like what the characters I could put into this game. But I definitely think this game does need an anime style fighting game done with it, like full 2D anime graphics, and this is a show just full of like flashy spells and attacks. So definitely gonna have to have a like an anime style art style for this, and I love to see characters like Leah Inverse, Gowry, Amelia, Rezo the Red Priest. Like even in season 1, there's a decent number of characters to work with for the roster. Like season 1 alone, I could definitely see, probably it could definitely fill 10 characters at the very least, if not a good 15. So, and like I said, that's just season 1, and Slayers has about 4 or 5 different seasons, all about 26 episodes apiece. Plus, they're like a bunch of like special OVA miniseries that happen. So, definitely a lot to work with here. And
you could probably have a healthy roster of maybe 30, 35.
Oh yeah, I bet that's probably as high as we can go. Plus maybe some DLC if we could find like some of the more jokey characters. And as far as like special mechanics and such, I feel like that would be a disservice to this kind of series, because like this anime series is kind of the epitome of corny but fun adventure fantasy style 80s cheese that like us nostalgia divers love to have. So like obviously there would be like some special attacks thrown in. You have like a flashing super meter, but I think this game would be best personified as like an old classic arcade game from like late 80s, early 90s. Like I'm definitely thinking like Marvel vs. Capcom vibes, but probably like the first generation of Marvel vs. Capcom, where there was no like crazy mechanics. It was just health bar, special bar, 3 rounds, crazy characters that are just fun to play as, and you just go at it with each other. So yeah, that's my dream roster for this week.
All right, I guess since we have nothing else to cover this week, thank you all for watching. We're always happy to have some new viewers. We're also always happy to have our return viewers come back, because
Indeed.
We gotta grow this podcast, of course.
Yep.
But for all of us here at K9C, I'm Pharaoh.
I'm Shmar, leaving the dojo.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
what we all say.
Yes, as Wolf would say, stay safe, stay cool. Although it is kind of starting to cool down as we end off August and get to September. So hopefully we should be switching over to stay warm at some point in the next month or so. But yeah. As Pharaoh said, from all of us at KNC, stay safe. Tell everyone that you know to give us a listen. Hopefully, we'll have this whole thing on YouTube at some point in the near future. And as always, fight on.
Fight on.
We will see you guys next week.
See you later.